Hello again. Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense. We are going by King Sisolak's rules and social distancing and wearing masks, other than we had to wait till everybody's out of the room. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider doesn't carry Fired Up, ask him to do just that, and we'll take care of it. A new show is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Our audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out KELY1230.com for a station in your area. If you have questions or comments, send me an email to bob@firedupmail.com or leave a message on my office recorder. That number is 702-257-1060. That's 702-257-1060. If you don't leave contact information, I can't call you back. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States, rarely truthfully or fully covered by the mainstream media. I always select a few for each show for my listeners' education. Most are good shootings, some are questionable, sometimes they're just plain wrong, but all are educational for those of you that keep a defensive firearm in your home or carry one for self-defense in your vehicle or on the street. Individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law, so the advice given here may not apply in the area where you live. Advice from a local gun-savvy defense attorney is always recommended. Stories are often paraphrased by me for clarity by translation from police jargon, what I call lawyer speak, and occasionally from regional accents into more standard American English. The incidents are as reported, but the names of the individuals involved are generally deleted. The identification of law enforcement, the lawyers involved, and the media are generally used. That being said, here we go. Fox 2 News Detroit reports September 16, 2020, in Adrian, Michigan, an 85-year-old man has died after being stabbed multiple times at a major store in Adrian, Michigan. That's spelled M-I-J-E-R, major. I presume that's how it's pronounced. They're all around the country, except we don't have one here in Las Vegas, as far as I know. Adrian police say the stabbing happened around 12:30 in the afternoon at the major store in Adrian, which is about 75 miles southwest of Detroit. The Adrian police chief, a fellow named Vincent Emmerich, said a woman armed with a handgun ordered the suspect, a 29-year-old Adrian man, to the floor and held him until officers arrived. When police got to the store, the suspect was arrested. Police say the 85-year-old man had been stabbed multiple times in the head and neck and was pronounced dead at the scene. A knife believed used in the stabbing was found on a store shelf. The victim and the suspect entered the store separately, Emmerich said. The victim's name was not immediately released, but he was from Lenawee County. The chief did not discuss a motive, and the investigation is continuing. At this time, we're reviewing video footage from the store surveillance cameras, as well as cell phone camera footage from witnesses at the scene, the sheriff said. A commotion at the rear of the store drew the attention of some shoppers who had witnessed the attack. We were getting in line and we heard people start screaming in the back of the store, said a customer who was with her husband. She saw employees start running and then people running from the back of the store. They were screaming and running out the front door. A code 50 was announced over the store's PA system, and employees could be seen running in the direction of the commotion. A code 50 apparently means, everybody come, we got a big problem in this area of the store. The customer added that the scary part was they were just back there in that department because her husband was looking for headlights or something in automotive, and she used the bathroom back in the back of the store. Anyone who witnessed the attack or has information regarding the incident is asked to contact Detective Sergeant Lamar Ruffner. Lamar Ruffner, yes, at 517-264-4808. That's 517-264-4808. A spokesman for the major store was not immediately available for comment. That's probably good policy. Sometimes being in the right place at the right time creates a hero. This armed citizen was able to capture the perp without gunfire. Often, a firm demeanor is enough to capture a criminal without necessarily actually using deadly force. If the subject had turned to flee, she should then have to make a fast and tough decision. As store security and police were no doubt responding at the time, letting him go would have probably been the best choice. I've just got to applaud this woman for capturing this guy and jumping in where somebody should. We're all in danger of lawsuits and this and that when we intervene in somebody else's thing, but seeing somebody stabbing an 85-year-old man pretty clearly tells you who the bad guy is and who the good guy is. Anyway, she made the right choice, so good for her. This next story is a tragic story that I'm going to read exactly as reported by CBS, KMTV3 News Now. That's a CBS affiliate. Reported September 21, 2020 in Omaha, Nebraska, a white business owner charged with manslaughter for fatally shooting a black man during protests in Nebraska has died by suicide after his indictment, his attorney said Sunday. Jacob Gardner of Omaha, Nebraska was found dead Sunday outside a medical clinic in Hillsboro, Oregon, the Hillsboro Police Department said in a news release. His attorney, Stu Dornan, said in a news conference Sunday that Gardner's death was a suicide. Unfortunately, there are two men who have died in this terrible tragedy, Dornan said. It's a terrible tragedy for the Omaha community. It's a terrible tragedy for James Sherlock and his family. It's a terrible tragedy for the Gardner family. The grand jury on Tuesday charged Gardner, age 38, with manslaughter in the death of this James Sherlock. The black man, authorities say Gardner shot May 30th during a protest against police brutality and racial injustice outside Gardner's bar in Omaha, Nebraska. Gardner was also charged with attempted assault, making terrorist threats, and using a gun to commit a felony. Gardner had said he fired the gun in self-defense. Douglas County Attorney Don Klein initially decided not to charge Gardner, saying he acted in self-defense. After intense criticism, a grand jury was called to examine the case, resulting in charges that were then filed against Gardner. Dornan said Gardner, who had gone to California after the shooting, was really shook up after the grand jury's indictment. The grand jury indictment was a shock to him. It was a shock to us, Dornan said. Attorney Tom Monaghan, Monaghan, phew, can't do names, who spoke during Sunday's news conference, said the community of Omaha has convicted Mr. Garner on social media. Special Prosecutor Frederick Franklin has said the grand jury reviewed additional evidence that Klein didn't have, including texts from Gardner's phone, messages on his Facebook profile, and his interaction with bystanders before coming into contact with Spurlock. Franklin declined to provide specifics what the new evidence shows, except to say it undermines the notion of self-defense. An arrest warrant was approved for Gardner on Friday. He was scheduled to return to Omaha on Sunday to face the charges against him, Dorman said. CBS Omaha affiliate KMTV reports that Dornan said Gardner suffered 2 traumatic brain injuries and PTSD from tours in Iraq. Dornan said Gardner told him he thought he was in a war zone outside the bar with violence, tear gas, and mass confusion. He added that Gardner was extremely upset and remorseful of the events that took place that night of the shooting and initially didn't know what happened to Scurlock. Dornan said he advised Gardner to leave Omaha after Klein initially announced no charges would be filed. Gardner allegedly received numerous death threats and fled then to Northern California. KMTV also reports that attorneys said Gardner planned to return to Omaha Sunday evening from the Portland, Oregon area where he was visiting his father. This is a really sad case wherein a veteran apparently suffering traumatic brain injuries and severe PTSD misreads or misunderstands the events happening around him. Crucified in the media, he took his own life rather than come back and start over with the arguments. We have lots of veterans around who deserve our help. The media going after him and Facebook pages and whatnot as a murderer, a white on black murderer, when that wasn't his personality at all. That's not what happened. He's a veteran who made a mistake and needed treatment, not criticism on the internet from all these left-wing guys that are racially. It wasn't a racial issue at all. You could tell it was to begin with when they said, the news story says, a white guy shot a black guy. The fact that they're white or black doesn't tell you who's right or who's wrong. We need to get off this racial crap. Anyway, done with my commenting on that. Third story. ABC TV and WLS 890 AM talk radio report in Waukegan, Illinois, a shooting happened around 10 a.m. Tuesday at a home in the 100 block of Frolic Avenue. Waukegan police said somebody inside the home called 911 around 10 a.m. after 2 men armed with a gun tried to break into their house. The aunt said that her niece was home around 10 in the morning when 2 men came to the door disguised as gas company employees or something similar. The aunt said they were knocking on the door with their feet. She just opened it a little bit to see who it was, and they forced themselves in. They thought the house was empty, and they didn't think anyone was there. The aunt said her nurse screamed for help. The aunt added, all I know is she started yelling for her roommate, and he came up. The way the article reads, he's in a downstairs room or something. She started yelling for her roommate. He came up, and that's when he went back down and got a gun and came back up. She said the roommate started firing from the inside of the house, and police said one of the two attempted intruders fired also. Waukegan Police Department Commander Joe Florup said, "I cannot remember the last time we had two people try and break into a home. Detectives aren't sure who fired first, but said both alleged intruders were shot dead in the front yard." The neighbor said it was like 2 or 3 intervals. I heard like a dun, 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 dun. My dogs were barking. That's why I came out to my door to check. Another neighbor said, I was watching TV and heard them, and I looked outside and I heard 3 pops and then 2 pops. The detectives say they found at least 1 gun on the suspects, but have not yet said who the suspects are or why they chose to target the particular home. The resident's aunt said her niece was watching a young child and ran out the back door as bullets flew back and forth. The family said everyone inside the home is shaken up but okay. The woman's aunt added if she would have been by herself, it would have been a totally different story. Well, that part is obviously true. Intruders disguised as municipal workers. Here in Las Vegas, we've had a number of similar crimes. Years ago, at my home, at that time in Henderson, I had the same thing happen. A guy with a gas company hat came to the door to check for a reported gas leak. When I asked for his ID, he turned and went back to his obviously private vehicle parked in front of my house. Henderson, I called the police, obviously. Henderson PD scooped him up a few minutes later. They did a fine job. HPD did great. I was amazed at how quickly they were there and how quickly they took care of all this stuff. We're going to break, I think, here for a brief word from some of our sponsors. If you want to hold on just a minute, I will be right back. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. And we are back. This story comes from KIRO7, reported September 23rd, 2020 in Spanaway, Washington. That's Washington State. A local 78-year-old woman held an intruder at gunpoint after finding the man breaking into her home, according to the Pierce County Sheriff's Office. The woman knew something was wrong when her dog, named Boo Boo, started barking Sunday night. I opened my door, and standing right 2-3 feet in front of me was a man. We looked at each other for a few seconds, then he turned and started to leave. And I said, "Oh, no you don't, you stay right here," she said. The elderly woman said her neighbor has been plagued with crime recently. Her car was prowled twice. I'm not sure what that means, prowled, but we get the general snooping around it, I guess. When she came face to face with another intruder, she wasn't about to let him run away. So she said, I reached over and got my shotgun. I cocked it and told him to stay right there. Told him to sit on the steps. I followed him out. I just stood there with the shotgun waiting for the police to come. This was her first time using the shotgun, which she got years ago to protect her family as a single mother. She was initially scared to death while holding the intruder at gunpoint, she said. But then I was totally calm. Really and truly, I thought, this is amazing. I've got grandchildren your age. The grandmother asked why he tried to break in, and was alarmed to hear some of his answers. The Pierce County Sheriff's Office reported the man told deputies he was looking for his wife and talked about how God had sent him. Deputies arrested the suspect, and it's all thanks to the elderly resident's quick thinking and bold actions. The grandmother said she's grateful no one, including the intruder, got hurt. She said, after he was so meek and mild and sat down like I told him to do, it was empowering. I felt like at least I was in charge. I wasn't afraid. Deputies said the suspect did not show any signs of impairment and did not seem to be distressed. He was released after the homeowner chose not to press charges. Talk about a nice victim. After trying to detain a criminal, it is generally really a bad idea. Here, the victim was so nice, she refuses to sign the criminal complaint. Hopefully, the Pierce County Sheriff's Office, now knowing who he is, can tie him to other incidents and take him off the street. This is a nothing story, but this lady is so kind and so nice that she sides with the perp and won't sign the criminal complaint. As I said, hopefully the Sheriff's Department can maybe scare him out of something. This fifth story is about politics. We are in the middle of a horrible political turmoil. As of reports today, Republicans have the votes to advise and consent a new Supreme Court justice to be nominated this coming Saturday at 5 p.m. by President Trump. Several waffling United States senators have now decided that although they don't personally like President Trump, putting a conservative constitutionalist justice on the Supreme Court is the best thing for the country. We have, this has become, as of today, Mitt Romney has said he's going to vote for approval, and a couple of others are waffling about that, have decided to go through with the appointment of this Supreme Court justice. The Dems are yelling that it shouldn't be done during an election year and all the rules and this and that. And they're wrong. It has traditionally been when the Senate and the President are from the same party and it's an election year, they go ahead and appoint Supreme Court justices. The Dems have done it. We have done it in the Republican side. Oops, I just gave out the clue that I'm a Republican. That's the best thing for the country. The other situation would be that we have instead of 9, we have 8 justices, and a lot of decisions will end up 2-2, putting the Supreme Court on ice for years. The Dems have said we shouldn't elect anybody until there's a new president. Does that make sense when Trump is actually rerunning? So we're going to go another 4 years if Trump wins before they have anybody on the Supreme Court? I don't think that's what they meant, but anyway, you get the picture. They are now trying to impeach him and various other crap things to delay the appointment. The appointment should be done. It should be done now. And any of the 5 women that are currently under consideration, I think would make a fine justice. I've looked at most of them. And virtually all have already been approved by the Senate. They're all already in the federal system as appellate court judges. So you can't say they haven't had a background check by Congress. They've already been approved by Congress. Last story. The Marxist Antifa and Black Lives Matter riots ripped through the country in an effort to destroy America. Law enforcement officers are targets of murder attempts in nightly riots in many major cities, including here in my hometown, Las Vegas. We've had several incidents where officers were shot or shot at and injured and hit with bottles and rocks and bricks and any response to that all lives matter or blue lives matter beget death threats and doxing. Doxing, if you're not familiar with it, it took me a while to understand this because I'm not a computer guy, as regular listeners know. Doxing is D-O-X-X-I-N-G, is an abbreviation for the phrase dropping documents. It involves releasing personal information like home phone numbers, addresses, and social media profiles to a hostile digital audience. We've had a bit of that here at Fired Up with Bob Irwin. I get some really interesting emails and once in a while a threat. Anyway, while we're at it, that's kind of all the show for today, but Rick, you want to run another commercial segment here?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to drop a commercial and then I'll be right back for a little bit of hollering. Don't go away. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man, Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. First, a little brief word about our sponsors and friends that are sponsors, our friends and associates that are listed on those commercials. They're all having tremendous trouble staying open, staying in business under King Sisolak's ever-changing rules about how many people you can have and whatever. We just had a Trump rally here in Henderson, and he was told, Trump was told, the President of the United States, that he couldn't have more than 50 people at his campaign rally. So he said, very wisely, Trump's very wise sometimes, he said, actually, to everybody in the audience, this is not a campaign rally, this is a protest. We're protesting the way the country is running. If we're a protest, apparently we can have as many people as we want anywhere, but if we're a rally, we can't. So this is a protest against everything I'm against. Or words to that effect. Kind of cute. This last note is about voting. I know I've harped on this several times. It is so important that everybody vote in this election. The Democrats are basically speaking with one voice at every level to eliminate the Second Amendment. Their list of things includes a buyback of any military-looking rifle. Of course, there's no such thing as a buyback because the government didn't sell you the gun in the first place. But they're going to have a committee, and they'll decide how many dollars the gun is worth, and you will sell it to them for whatever price they say. And there'll be a committee set up, I'm told, already like they did in Australia, where you have 4 or 5 gun people that make a ruling as to how much the gun is actually worth, you know, because it has a neat scope on it or whatever. But the idea is you will sell it to them. The buyback includes any rifle that looks like a military rifle. It includes their platform. Platform includes confiscating any magazine for a gun, what they call a clip, any magazine for a gun that is capable of holding more than 10, or in some of their views, 7 cartridges. It even outlaws revolvers that hold more than 5 or 6 cartridges. They have an idea they can make you have a gunsmith plug up one chamber if it's like a 8-shot revolver or whatever, and then it'll only hold the right amount, you know, because you can't put a cartridge in the other ones. The fact that you have a God-given right to defend yourself from criminal attack is actually on the ballot. The election is your last chance to save your firearms rights, in my opinion. If you've looked at the malleability of candidate Biden, he's going to do whatever Bernie Sanders says. He reads off the monitor very well. I read this off a monitor too, so I can't complain about that. But I write what I'm reading. So, anti-gun politicians intend to enact anti-firearm legislation at every level: federal, state, county, township, and city. You must vote this election or we are going to lose America. When you have no right to defend yourself and no tools to defend yourself, our country is done. We'll be back next week with another edition of Fired Up. Please have sympathy on my friends and associates, and if they're in business, and they are mostly semi-business, try and patronize them. Tell them Bob sent you. We'll be back next week. I hope your week gets better. Good night.